Hey guys, I'm heading out to the range to knock out some videos for you, and I thought I'd produce one of them right here in the vehicle. It's a request that was made of me by Bravo Concealment. I produce videos for Bravo Concealment's blog every month, 2 videos every month, and this one was brought to my attention. The idea was brought to my attention, and I thought, don't know if I want to touch that one. And then America went nuts, and then I realized, you know what? That's actually a really good idea. And the idea slash question was how to deal with an ambush. I initially went at this with the mindset of a police officer and having been a cop. So I will give you the short answer there. As a police officer, how you contend with an ambush is simple and yet complicated. To say complicated is to say that you can't fully understand. When I say you, I mean private citizens. You can't fully understand what the life of a cop is like. Every call, every day, every night is a potential ambush. Even something that is, we always hear a routine traffic stop, right? There's no such thing as a routine traffic stop. Every traffic stop is treated as a potential deadly confrontation with everybody. But there are certain calls that you take that you know have a higher potential for an ambush. And the way I would deal with those when I had them, they were the domestics, they were the alarm calls, and ironically, guys, they were the alarm calls in the middle of the day, because that's when most burglaries occur, by the way. Burglaries seldom occur at night. If there's a break-in at night, you have to go at that differently, and I'm not going to divulge what that is, but you have to treat that differently than a break-in during the day. So the answer to how you deal with that is you park 2 houses up from the house where you're going to, or 2 buildings up from the building that you're going to. You gently close your door. You make sure that you're either running on hearing protection with your radio plugged in, which is what I used to do, or you are just running on comms that are plugged right into your ear, and in you go. From the standpoint of the private citizen, and I really believe that this is the one that applies to more of us, I'll give you a very short story. Years ago, I did a video similarly on this subject, and a friend of mine who was then working for Surefire and has subsequently gone to work for somebody else, called me and he said, saw your video and I wanted to share a story with you. He said, I was driving in the middle of nowhere, Alabama, on one of those obscure little highways, and he said all of a sudden there is one of those great big orange barricades in the middle of the road, and he said I immediately slammed on the brakes. When he saw the barricade in the distance, he didn't go, gosh, I wonder what that is, and drive up to it. He immediately stood up on his brakes. I think he said his daughter was with him, but I don't remember. Anyways, he stood up on his brakes, threw it in reverse, grabbed the seat, and spun the truck around and went full throttle in the opposite direction. And I was like, boom, that's how you deal with it. The point that I'm making with that is the mentality that we have as human beings of wait and see, what is that? I wonder. That's what gets us in trouble. When it really needs to be, something is not right. And guys, all of us have been wired with this sense, you always hear something in my gut told me, right? So we're all wired with this sense of I don't really like what's going on. We are all wired with a sense of understanding that something is amiss. And when we override that sense of self-preservation and go, I'm really curious with what's going on up there, I think I'll go take a look. That's how you get in trouble. I'll give you 2 more cases, 2 more examples of this, and then I'll let you go. Several months ago, January maybe, December, I really don't recall. Early Saturday morning, I was driving my daughter to Lee University in Cleveland, Tennessee. She was singing in a choir competition, or not really a choir competition, it was more like a choir symposium. And we had to drop her off early on Saturday morning. And So I drove down there and dropped her off, and it just started snowing when I dropped her off. Turned around, started heading back home, and all of a sudden the heavens opened up and it started coming down hard. And in the very short period of time, we had a lot of snow collecting on the road. And I remember getting ready to get on 75 and realized the traffic in the distance is backing up. And I headed down the on-ramp, and all of a sudden I went, really, Abner? Are you actually going to drive onto this highway with all of that traffic backed up as far as you can already see? And I immediately stopped onto the shoulder. Took a minute, and I thought, well, crap, I am now halfway down this ramp. I've only got one option. Well, technically two. To get into the stack and hope that it clears up, or back up the on-ramp and go the other direction that I know is probably going to be clear. And that's exactly what I did. I backed it up and I drove it against traffic. I got back onto the road that I'd just been on, went the back way home, and had better success getting home, although that was Mr. Toad's wild ride as well. Mr. Toad's wild ride as well, but I made it home. I listened to that inner voice that said, this does not look right. And guys, it is the same inner voice that says to you, this smells like an ambush. In that context, it wasn't an ambush of life or death where someone was going to take pop shots at me, but it could have potentially turned into a vehicular ambush. Boy, I can't talk today. A vehicular ambush where I could have ended up in the stack of vehicles, and the next bunch of vehicles coming up behind me, full tilt boogie, not paying attention, could have plowed into me. And that's how you hear about these stories of a 22 car pileup on I-75, 12 people dead, right? So I realized I can't get on the highway because right now the highway is a death trap. The last one is something that occurred 2 years ago. Once again, choir. My job, because I work from home, my job has primarily been for the last several years is running the girls around. And frankly, guys, I love it. It's one of the reasons I drive a minivan right now. I love it. I drive the girls around. Job appointments, school appointments, things like that. And I was taking my daughter to choir rehearsal, and I was on 75. And for those of you in the Chattanooga area, I was coming up on Bonnie Oaks, seeing Gun Barrel Road. Seeing Shelliford Road in the distance that passes over 75, and suddenly it was dusk, and suddenly saw a bunch of brake lights doing this violently, and instantly slowed down. Even though I had probably still almost 2 miles between me and what I saw. And my daughter goes, "What's the matter, Dad?" And I said, "Hang on." And I passed over the top of Bonnie Oaks, and I realized I can't go any further. Because if I go any further into that mess, I'm going to get stuck here for hours. Once there's something that is really, really bad and the highway stops, everything stops. Highway patrol, whoever happens to be there, has to take over, and everything has to be shut down because the crash itself has to be preserved as much as possible. So that means you're going to be inconvenienced sitting in your car for an extended period of time, which, by the way, is why you never want to allow your car to drop below half a tank in fuel, because you never know, winter or summer, when you're going to get stuck in your vehicle for several hours on end. But I stopped immediately. We just drove over Bonnie Oaks Drive, and I realized, well, crap, one more time, I am now stuck just past the off-ramp that I really wish I'd gotten off on. And I thought, you know what? I'm not driving into that mess. And I said to my daughter, keep your head down, start praying. And I actually turned it around, because I was not about to back down the highway on-ramp. I turned around and I drove along the shoulder of the on-ramp very slowly. Just then, a Chattanooga officer comes around the corner in his Explorer and comes whipping up the on-ramp. And I kid you not, guys, he didn't even look at me. Because by that point, 3 other cars had started following me down. I say that to you out of respect to the officer, not out of disrespect. Having been a police officer, I know what was going through his mind. Wow, look, people are driving down the on-ramp. Well, that's all kinds of ballsy. However, I've just been dispatched to a call that is really bad about 1.5 miles up the road, and I need to focus on that. That's what that officer was thinking, because that's what I was thinking when things like that were given to me by dispatch. And what I say to you, all these little things that we get exposed to in our day-to-day driving, it is training us to to be prepared to react to the ambush. I pray, I mean this, guys, I pray to God that our nation, right now we're in the midst of a civil war, and I pray to God that this civil war does not become uncivil. Right now there was so much racial animus going in this country, and by the way guys, it is unwarranted racial animus. America is not a racist country. America is not a racist country. If it were a racist country, I, Puerto Rican, would be the first to feel it. Have I dealt with racism? Sure, I've dealt with racism. Ironically, I've dealt with more racism from black people than I have from white people. But that's a conversation for another day, and I may actually do a video on that because I actually have proof of this stuff for you guys. I'm talking about proof that you can Google. How about that one? There's so much racial animus in our country right now. I am deeply concerned for our nation. I am deeply concerned that ambushes are going to start becoming a thing, not against cops, but against anybody and everybody. White on black, black on white, Hispanic on black, black on Hispanic, white on whatever. This group against this group because this group believes this and this group believes that. Start training yourself to listen to that inner voice that says to you, something is not right, I should not be driving in this direction, I need to immediately turn, inconvenience myself, and go another way if I have to. So anyways, guys, I hope that this video helps you kind of open your mind and start thinking, you know, I really don't need to be following the status quo, and I need to be looking at the bigger picture, which, by the way, is one of the reasons why having this in your hand while driving is not a good idea. Having your eyes up and looking around you at all times, and most especially at intersections, traffic lights, stop signs, is a better idea than taking the opportunity that when your vehicle is in park to start staring at your phone. Guys, you guys start living eyes up. That's what I got for you guys today. As always, I thank you guys for watching. God bless you all. Get those guns on practice. Have a good one.